J.D. Vance and Erica Kirk went to Ole Miss for a Turning Point USA event, and the vice president, in honor of Charlie Kirk, debated students on stage. It was just an incredible evening, and one of my favorite moments of the whole night was about this 8-minute stretch where J.D. Vance and one of the students just kept going back and forth. It really was something to behold. So I know it's a bit of a long clip, so I've divided it into 4 sections, but here is how the conversation began.
Immigrant here. When did you guys decide that number? Why did you sell us a dream? You made us spend our youth, our wealth in this country and gave us a dream. You don't owe us anything. We have worked hard for it. Then how can you, as a vice president, stand there and say that we have too many of them now and we are going to take them out to people who are here rightfully so by paying the money that you guys asked us? You gave us the path, and now how can you stop it and tell us we don't belong here anymore? And one more thing. Do you have to
There's
be...
a lot there. I don't know if I'm going to remember all this, but I will try.
I'm sorry. I had to say all of this, and please take it with due... I'm saying all of this with due respect.
Go ahead. Please.
I have no intention of causing a scene here or anything, but...
We're not close to causing a scene, don't worry.
But we talked about Christianity, all of this. I'm not even Christian, and I'm here standing to show support. Why are we making Christianity one of the major things that you have to have in common to be one of you guys, to show that I love America just as much as you do? Why is that still a question? Why do I have to be a Christian?
Okay. So there was a lot there, and I'm going to try to respond to as much of it as I can. So on the question of immigration, so first of all, I can believe that we should have lower immigration levels, but if the United States passed a law and made a promise to somebody, the United States, of course, has to honor that promise. Nobody's talking about that. I'm talking about people who came in violation of the laws of the United States of America, and I'm talking about in the future reducing the number of people. Sorry, what?
Can I continue on that? Because when you just said you are not stopping with the people who came here legally, right? But you are pushing out policies that hurt us. And these policies are not even solving the problems. These policies are just creating chaos.
Ma'am. Okay, so again, I'm gonna finish answering the question, and then if I've answered all 9 of your questions in less than 15 minutes, then we can keep on going. We got to have a little fun, right? So here's the thing. I can believe...
I love that. I just love that he's having fun, and it really prevents it from becoming a tense moment, right? But the reason I really love this clip is because the Democrats, they say, oh, the Trump administration's racist, they hate brown people, they'll deport. I get this all the time in my comments, not from Republicans, but from Democrats. They're like, Daniel, you're not going to be safe just because you're defending Trump. He's going to deport you too. And I'm like, what in the world are you talking about? There's some sort of narrative that just because you're brown, you're going to be kicked out, deported. The fact that she felt safe challenging the vice president of the United States to his face really says that this narrative that the Democrats are trying to sell isn't true at all. I just love that. Also, how many politicians can you think of? Literally, can you name anyone, maybe with the exception of President Trump, who would go up on stage, field unscripted, unchecked, unfettered questions, and be willing to go back and forth? Because a lot of times, especially at town halls, it's you maybe get one question and there's no sort of follow-up. Like I said, this clip here goes on for about 8 minutes, and they just go back and forth and back and forth. Talk about being comfortable. Compare that to the Democrats. They get softball questions from the media. We saw Katie Porter getting upset when there were follow-ups. It really was something to behold. So here is J.D. Vance's answer to, as he said, all 9 of her questions.
I believe that the United States should lower its levels of immigration in the future, while also respecting that there are people who have come here through lawful immigration pathways that have contributed to the country. But just because one person or 10 people or 100 people came in legally and contributed to the United States of America, does that mean that we're thereby committed to let in 1 million or 10 million or 100 million people a year in the future? No, that's not right. We cannot have, I'll go and finish, we cannot have an immigration policy where what was good for the country 50 or 60 years ago binds the country inevitably for the future. There's too many people who want to come to the United States of America, and my job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world. It's to look out for the people of the United States. Now,
That's 100% true. That is his job. That's the administration's job. And by the way, when they're looking out for the interests of the United States, guess what? That does include the interests of legal immigrants, people who came here the right way. Everyone who is, here in the country legally and is trying to assimilate and just, pursue the American dream, make a better life for themselves and their family. That doesn't exclude people like me, or there are so many others in the comments who say, hey, I'm a first generation born American or a second, third. Like there are so many people. And it's not even just, when it comes to immigration, I think it's mostly because of the left. There's this perception that it's only about brown or darker skinned people, but people immigrate from all sorts of countries, Australia, Canada, all the countries over in Europe. So it's people from all sorts of backgrounds. And yes, many of those people are white. And this immigration debate, it's not just affecting the southern border. It's about anyone who has broken the laws or has tried to circumvent the systems. And when he says he's fighting for all Americans, I don't view that as him saying, oh, I'm only looking out for white people. No, of course I believe he's talking to and about people like me too. So I just really love that right there. But they actually kept going. This was about the halfway point of their clip, and J.D. Vance started talking about his family life, his faith life, and his relationship with his wife, Usha.
You asked a personal question about our interfaith household. And yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. Everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But, thank you. My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her, and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priests who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can. And that's what I try to do. I want to make a final point.
I love just how candid and open he is there. That was one of the few times you really saw her nodding her head, and obviously she started clapping along with the rest of the audience. I think she really liked his answer. And I think that's what's so impressive about what happened last night, because usually, not only was he going back and forth with students, but what he was saying was totally unscripted. It was from the heart, and he really got in depth into the topics. Usually when you hear politicians talk, it's all surface level, it's all buzzwords. They're just trying to get votes. They're just trying to make themselves look good. But here he's actually getting into the issues, getting into really how he feels about it. And I feel like that's what's really resonating with the students, and that's why they kept going back and forth. I don't think, just reading her body language, reading what she was saying, I don't think she was there, like she said, to cause a scene. I think she really was interested to learn more. The fact that she was nodding her head quite a few times, clapping there at the end, this is how you reach young people. That's how you're able to get them to challenge their beliefs and get them to really think and wrestle with, hey, why do I believe what I believe? And perhaps, should I consider your point of view? That's exactly what was happening here. Well, after they started talking about faith, they went back to the original topic of conversation, which was immigration. And her final question was, well, what is the number of immigrants you should let into the country each year? Like, what is that exact number? And this is J.D. Vance's response.
I want to be respectful to all the people behind you in line, but I want to make this point about immigration, okay? If you ask the question, what is the exact right number of immigrants for the United States to let in, it is just very specific on the context. If you go back to the 1920s, the United States passed an Immigration Reform Act that effectively cut down immigration to close to zero for 40 years in this country. And what happened over those 40 years? The many, many people who had come from many different foreign countries and different foreign cultures, they assimilated into American culture. And there was an expectation that they would assimilate into American culture. I think we have two problems in our immigration system today. And my guess is you're probably a slightly more leftist political persuasion, liberal political persuasion, maybe not. But here's the thing. I remember back in my establishment GOP days, when I was still very early getting involved in Republican politics, I remember a conservative think tank person who told me that one of the reasons why immigration was really good is that if you had enough diversity in a country, people would mistrust each other and they wouldn't join labor unions. Okay? So when I see a lot of left-wing people who theoretically support organized labor saying we need to flood the country with a limitless number of immigrants, they're unwilling to set any limitations on it. My response to that is you are destroying the very social trust on which American freedom and prosperity was built. And that is really important to me. So the honest answer to your question, what is the exact number of immigrants America should accept in the future? Right now, the answer is far less than we've been accepting. We have got to become a common community again, and you can't do that when you have such high numbers of immigration, which is one of the reasons why we have the immigration policy we do. Thank you. Next.
So obviously immigration was a hot topic for the night, but one of the issues that was talked about the most was religion. And naturally, you can't talk about religion without bringing up the Constitution, without bringing up the First Amendment. And J.D. Vance, I thought, really gave a masterclass on not just the First Amendment, but the history of it, and more importantly, the original intent.
I want to just make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page here. So if you go back to the First Amendment, it doesn't say separation of church and state. It says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. But if you go back to the founding time, there were actually a number of states that had formally recognized churches. So there was the Anglican Church of Virginia. That was the official state church of Virginia. Maryland at the time was the only majority Catholic colony, or at least had a significant Catholic representation of the original 13 colonies. There's a lot there. And yes, I do think that what happened is the Supreme Court interpreted Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion to effectively throw the church out of every public space at the federal, state, and local level. I think it was a terrible mistake, and we're still paying for the consequences of it today. But if, and I think this is your point, if you were to undo that, if you were to get back to a system actually meant by the founders where Congress is not setting up an established religion, but people in their local communities can kind of do whatever it is that they want to do, I think that would be a better system than what we have today. But I think the most important principle that we have got to remember is you do not have to completely kick God out of the public square, which is what we've done in modern America. It's not what the founders wanted. It's not good for the United States of America. And anybody who tells you it's required by the Constitution is lying to you. Thank you.
That is 100% true. One of my favorite ways to think about this is it is freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. That is a very big distinction right there. Now, I agreed with about 95% of what he said right there. The only issue that I have is about 5% where he said, maybe it should be left up to local and state areas. But with that logic, does that not mean that Dearborn, Michigan, or Minneapolis, which have huge Muslim populations, could they not establish like an Islamic church and make that like the recognized state or city church? That would be the one issue that I would personally be worried about. But yeah, I agree that people at their local level should be able to do what they want, and that yes, the First Amendment was intended to make sure that Congress at the federal level is not creating a law that recognizes a universal countrywide religion or church. Now, they started talking about the National Guard and talking about Trump's deployment of the Guard to various cities to help with immigration enforcement or to just settle crime that's taken over a lot of areas. And one of the students was asking about the legality and constitutionality of all of this. And again, I thought J.D. Vance brought up a very great point.
Okay. So here's something that I want conservatives, I want every conservative to remember. It's an important part of my entire political philosophy is we cannot be afraid to do something because the left might do it in the future. The left is already going to do it regardless of whether we do it. That is the takeaway of the last 40 years.
Yeah, I think J.D. Vance was spot on with that. It's time to, not be afraid to fight back. I think that's why so many people were drawn towards President Trump. You saw previous administrations. We all knew that there was fake news, right? We all knew that the mainstream media was biased, but for whatever reason, they would sit back and just take the punches. They never fought back or tried to, call out the media and the journalists for their shenanigans and their obvious activism for the Democrat Party. And that's the sort of fight that I believe President Trump would that's going to be part of his legacy, right? He's taught Republicans how to fight and stand up for themselves. So I believe that that's what J.D. Vance was saying there. Now, what is upsetting is the way that his words, which there's nothing wrong with his words, I agree with them 100%, but they are starting to be twisted and taken out of context, even by people in conservative media. So this is not an attack against Nick Sorter, but I did want to talk about this because he has a massive platform, and I generally agree with most of what he says, but I don't agree with this. J.D. Vance, we cannot be afraid to do something because the left might do it in the future. The left is going to do it regardless of if we do it. This is exactly right. Then these are Nick Sorter's words. Democrats never play by the rules, so why should we? This isn't about being on a moral high horse or trying to take the moral high ground. When you talk about rules, I believe that the Constitution is what makes America America. It is the law of the land. It gives us separation of powers. It gives us checks and balances. It gives us a federalist system. I mean, to me, when you're talking about breaking the rules, because the Democrats break the rules, I don't think that's a nice argument to make, and I don't think that it's something that the right side of the aisle or the conservative movement should embrace. I don't think it's something that should become mainstream. To me, you can do things and fight back and be aggressive, but do so within the confines of the Constitution. Color within the lines however you want, but make sure, look, if you're going to say that you're the party of law and order, then let's be the party of law and order. So no criticism towards J.D. Vance there, but when people, content creators and influencers start saying, well, hey, yeah, he said this, let's go break the rules. No, I'm going to push back on that and say, hey, I like most of what you say, but this is where I disagree. Well, J.D. Vance's performance was great. Let's compare it to Kamala Harris. But before we do that, I would like to acknowledge the members of today's Governor's Club. They are Steve River A. Music, RL1401, Ruckus. These are people who give super thanks and tips to the channel, so thank you so much. RL1401, thank you so much. That was super gracious and generous of you, and I saw your note, and thank you. Yes, so tomorrow, which is Halloween, I am doing a giveaway for those of you who can guess my new kitten's name. He is not on camera right now. He is sleeping. This is Matrim. That's Drogon. I thought that was him right there, but no, that was just a blanket scrunched up. But anyways, the giveaway is going to happen on Halloween if you can guess his name. And if you enter the guessing contest, you can do so at the link below. You will be entered a chance to win one of $50 gift cards. And because the giveaway is on Halloween, RL pointed out that Halloween originally was a Christian holiday and that it was All Saints Day. All Saints Day is on November 1st. And so Halloween was like All Hallows Eve. So with all of this talk about Christianity, freedom of religion, history, I thought that was a great point that you brought up and wanted to share it with the channel. Well, J.D. Vance did a great job at this event at Ole Miss. Well, compare that to the last vice president, Kamala Harris, who obviously wants to run for president again. She is doing her book tour promoting 107 Days, which in reality is just defending why she lost, because she knows it's going to be an issue when she runs again. So she wants to get ahead of those criticisms. Well, she was doing an interview with a journalist, and the journalist flat out called her out on her pivot, her lies, and it is, I mean, compare J.D. Vance going back and forth with students to Kamala Harris being unable to handle a single journalist.
Wasn't Joe Biden, then, to put it on him, wasn't his refusal to recognize his own frailties the reason that you faced a nearly impossible task?
I ran against Donald Trump for president, and Donald Trump ran on a platform that was, in large part, I believe, misrepresenting his intentions to the American people. I do believe that there are a fair number of people that voted for Donald Trump who believed him when he told them that his first priority on day one is going to be to bring down prices, and he didn't. And you combine that misrepresentation of intention with also what was at play in terms of massive amounts of mis and disinformation.
Now, forgive me.
And a truncated calendar in terms of the clock.
I want to interrupt you because that is a world-class pivot, but it is not the question that I asked you, which is about Joe Biden's failure to recognize his own frailties and what that did to you. The question is about Joe Biden. Are you still reluctant to criticize the former president?
In what regard, please?
Well, just in terms of that question. So you went on...
What exactly would you like to ask? Be more specific, if you don't mind.
Was it Joe Biden's decision, his failure to recognize his own frailties in that position, that put you in the position that made it almost impossible to win that race?
He was not frail as president of the United States.
But he had frailties. We all saw the debate.
You could see her guard go up there, and when she first gets called out, if you look at her eyes blinking, you could tell she was just... How dare you do this to me? Just a complete difference there, and just acting as if she doesn't know what the reporter is talking about. What a complete joke. We really dodged one there. And, you know, if she wants to run in 2028, go at it. I don't think it's going to be any better. And whether it's 300 days of a runway leading up to the election or 107, I don't think it's going to make any difference. In fact, I think more days may make your election odds even worse, Kamala. As always, though, all of this is just my analysis and commentary. That's what's happening in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So what was your favorite moment of J.D. Vance at Ole Miss? Let me know down in the comments below. If you didn't watch the whole thing and you only saw my video, of course, just let me know your favorite moment of the clips that I shared. But I know many of you probably watched the event live or watched a recording of the entire thing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be from the clips that I showed. If there's something I didn't show where you're like, whoa, that was a standout moment, feel free to talk about it in the comments. I know a lot of you read the comments, so I think it's a great way to share and get new information. Well, as I referenced earlier, we are having a giveaway tomorrow. I'm giving away five $50 gift cards of your choosing. I'm pinning a link to the contest so you can enter. Even if you entered in the past, please enter this way. I figured this would be the most fair way because, well, first of all, I lost access to the old list. And then second of all, there are so many new subscribers, and I figured, you know, let's just have everyone enter. And I'll have the system draw it so there's no accusations of favoritism or any sort of cheating. But you have to guess my new kitten's name. These are the guessing game clues. I'm known to leap, but I'm no frog. Hollywood once called me Dennis. Techies call me Grace. Artists call me Edward. And the third clue, I carry grain, but I'm no farmer. So all you have to do is click the link. It's pinned as the #1 comment. And enter in your name, your email address, the email I just need. So if you win, I can give you your $50 gift card. And it's actually a $50 gift card of your choosing. If you win, I'll ask you, hey, which gift card do you want? You let me know. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because, you know, I could do something like Starbucks or Amazon, but not everyone goes to Starbucks. Not everyone uses Amazon. So I want you to, you know, choose something that you are going to use and be excited to win. And then obviously put in the guess. You can guess as many times as you want, but you have to guess his name correctly. If it's a wrong guess, then you won't be entered into the raffle. The deadline for this is tomorrow, which is Friday, Halloween, which is how RL started talking about All Saints Day. It'll be tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern time, and then I will do the drawing in tomorrow afternoon's video. If you haven't already, please be sure to leave me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.